But before cementing itself in history and before anybody had ever heard of something called a charity record, the real story started when two musicians decided to use their talents to raise some money for people facing an unimaginable situation.
And those two musicians, Bob Geldof and Midge Ure, join us now. And I have to... So I was supposed to say £200 million have been raised, but in today's money...
It's about 480 million.
Wow.
Value.
Yeah,
not 2 million, thanks, guys. I'm glad you really...
200 million.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I was just saying, but you said two.
I know, but I corrected
you've never
it,
done this before, right?
Never. Never.
We're sitting next to Bob Geldof.
Spring chicken.
I just remember... Look, it's a real privilege to have you both here.
We are, because it's his daughter produces this show right now, so all the camera work is on him.
Absolutely. That's the whole point of having daughters.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, precisely.
Meanwhile, no one could get you for interviews yesterday, apparently, pre-interviews.
Right.
We're too busy.
I was all over the place.
He was all over the place.
Exactly.
What's your excuse?
I was on tour.
He's on tour.
Oh, my word.
He's been a musician.
One of us is a musician.
Are you still
Same
great
as
friends
40
all
years
these years
ago,
later?
by the way.
Yeah, you know what we are. Men are just useless, aren't we? You know, we never see each other. Never, you know. And then the moment years go by and you bump into each other again somewhere, and it's like those years didn't exist. It just instantly comes back again. But we're constantly texting. I'm glad to say Bob now can spell, because he used to text like a teenager, and it would take me hours to kind of reinterpret what he was actually trying to say.
I just eliminated the unnecessary consonants.
You just don't use vowels
or whatever, you know.
Bob, when you think about it, it all started with you watching that Michael Burke report. Yeah. Can you take us back to that day and just the process of from that to recording a single?
The key thing is the time of year. It was late October, damp. The Boomtown Rats had this endless string of hits, and suddenly this good song I thought we had wasn't getting traction. Retrospectively, because there was a whole new crowd on the block. Yeah. Ultravox, Duran Duran, Spandau Ballet, George Michael. They had something new to sell, but I was depressed and thought, well, best part of my life may be over. I go home. I had our first little girl. Fifi was about 6-9 months. My missus was there. I was home at 6. He wasn't home at 6. I mean, I'm not joking. Nor was Simon Le Bon, nor was Gary Kemp. They were out working. So I turned on the television, 6 o'clock news, and saw this genius piece of journalism, which within a few minutes told you this vast story of horror. And that's why journalism is really important, to tell you the truth about the world. Forget conversation and opinions, the truth.
We're looking at Michael Burke now. Even now, I remember that image so vividly.
Well, it was so interesting because he was on last week and he came here and I was talking to him about it and I was saying, I was 8 when that went on the TV and I watched all of the reports back and it was so visceral how I distinctly remember it, even as a little girl, being really shaken to the core, and he was talking about it and saying, what you didn't see were the smells, the sounds. He arrived there and it was pitch black. And he woke up in the morning and there were 40,000 starving people in front of him, and he had no idea when he arrived.
I know, it is, but he was able to encapsulate that in very tight, précis language, which spoke of rage and anger, but in a very posh English middle-class accent, so it hit home to you. Yeah. And the three of us, little people, and Paula took Fifi and ran upstairs because she couldn't watch it. And the next day she went up to Newcastle to go with Jules Holland. The two of them hosted the go-go rock and roll show of the 80s called The Tube. So I went down for breakfast in the morning and in the bowl was a little piece of paper saying, anyone who comes to this house puts £5 in this bowl. And I thought it had stayed with us all night. We hadn't talked about it or anything. And I thought, that's good, but this really does require more. This requires something of the self. And I thought, I'll call it Who's on the Show. Remember, the Rats were tapering off now. So I couldn't guarantee that we were going to have a hit, you know. So what I do is I write tunes, so does he, and that's the most I could do. So if we're not going to have a hit, find the people who can make this a hit. So I called a tube and I said, who's on? She said, Midge, she's here beside me. And I said, put him on, and...
Who says no? You know, none of us had seen the footage, as Bob said. We were all out working. And he said, he told me what he'd just seen. He said, can we meet up? We did. I met up in London. Came to the obvious conclusion that we're actually skilled at nothing but possibly writing a tune. Yeah. It was kind of cold and calculated when you think about it. If we wrote a Christmas tune, you know, we couldn't just cover a Christmas tune because 50% of the money generated from a record goes to the writers. Yeah. So I had to write something. So Bob had this thing, and I went home after our meeting.
Excellent tune.
That's what I meant to say. Of course. This wondrous
thing. Please, I saw that shot. That left me as I was making this point because it's his daughter running this show.
Gonna tell you all.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I you know, having spoken about this, we made a Christmas tune and got it to #1 with the help of all our friends, of course. You know, a record can sell 2, 3 times as many over a Christmas period as it can #1 any other time of the year. Yeah. So I went home and I came up with my little Z-Cars theme, and Bob turned up the next day with a guitar with hardly any strings on it and sang me what he had. And I spent 4 days in my studio gluing all this together, playing all the instruments and stuff, while Bob bludgeoned our poor friends to come and join us and help do this thing.
So back in the day, I mean, in that era, there weren't mobile phones. So you were phoning, like, people's offices, phoning their management to try and corral them all to do it.
So we've forgotten a lot of this, but there's, you know, and neither of us thought about, you know, outtakes of stuff. So the video was made, and Jill Sinclair, who sort of finds all this stuff for Band Aid, she found all the outtakes and pieced it together into this extraordinary documentary, which is going out Thursday or Friday.
That's
Channel
right,
4.
No, not Channel 4.
BBC 4.
Again,
BBC 4.
Yeah. Who briefs you? Who does your research? Dealey, can you be professional? Because we are.
Please aren't
BBC 4, for God's sake. And,
oh, no. Shamed
really
by Bob Geldof live on telly.
I mean, I'm going to tell.
No, but actually, I think... Why not? If anyone,
I'll meet him there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh my God.
On the outtakes, which are part of the new video, which is equally extraordinary to the song. I mean, just it's immense. Anyway, we're saying, and I'm trying to be serious talking. What we try and do, we're trying to raise £70,000. You know, and I sit on the desk against the tape machine, and the tape machine starts whirring. My bum has set off the tape machine, and I go like this, and he looks at me, and the two of us start laughing. I mean, what you've got is a load of spotty kids, basically out of school, called Duran Duran, Spandau Ballet, George Michael, Bono, very nervous. Yeah. And I say to George Michael, I say, George, have you met Bono? He goes, no. I said, Bono, this is George Michael. And Bono looks suspicious. And he goes, hi. And George says, I get so nervous when I meet pop stars, you know. And Paul Young with this crap, dirty white T-shirt and spots and stuff. And you're going...
But there were kids running around as well in the
chaos. His face is a picture, because there's people... What about if we do this, Midge? And he's going... And he's just like this.
How we got anything, when you see the footage, how we got anything out of that day, I will never know.
But at the moment, there is some criticism being bandied around from fellow pop stars, the countries itself. How does that make you feel? And do you think you are still helping, and this new version will continue to help?
Oh, absolutely. The bottom line is that for 40 years, we have worked with the result of famine, climate change, war, you know, and the result of that is children. The result of that is you know, tonight there'll be someone sitting with no idea of where they're going to be living or sleeping or what they're going to be eating or whether they'll wake up tomorrow. That is the result that is there, that we deal with on a constant basis. You know, the fact that everyone has an opinion is great. We embrace that. You know, the fact that people are talking about this, we embrace that. You know, the dialogue is incredibly important. It brings it to the surface again. And it doesn't matter which side you're on. All sides need to be covered. You know, Africa standing on its own feet, absolutely, we get that. We totally agree with it. For 39.5 years, we have put money into long-term development within Africa, within sub-Saharan Africa. You know, for the first 6 months, it was immediate aid we had to send. It was medication and sorghum and high-protein biscuits and, you know, transportation, whatever. So we are there. The fact that people are discussing this and there is a dialogue going on is brilliant. That's what it's meant to do. Our job, all the way through the initial years of Band Aid, was to keep the cameras focused. I didn't want to go to Ethiopia. Bob couldn't go, but with the initial shipment of goods we had to go because the cameras had gone over there somewhere. And we had to keep pulling those cameras, microphones back again. And that's what it's all about. Keep the media focused and keep the world focused on what the problems actually are. You know, you can't stop one end of the scale by focusing on the other. Everything has to happen. You know, Africa has got to stand on its own feet, and it is, you know. But the people we are dealing with are the result of all the bad stuff. And that's what we'll continue to do.
Without a shadow of a doubt, you saved lives. Band-Aid has saved lives, Live Aid has saved lives.
And today, I mean, I wake up, as I keep saying, 10 or 12 emails. I just looked at it just before I came on. I don't have my phone over here.
No,
probably left
we probably took it from you.
Green thing. Here it is. Oh. So, OK, so today, Under-Secretary General of the United Nations from Port Sudan, where the ships all landed. So he's talking about the mass rape of women, which is happening in Sudan, and which Band-Aid is spending money over in the Chad border. If those damaged, broken mothers and their panicked, exhausted children can escape and get over that border, we're there. We're there because of this song. Buy the thing, just buy it. Doesn't matter. Really doesn't matter whether you like George Michael or Bon. Just buy it. Just buy it. Because what's it does, and here's the Under-Secretary General of the United Nations live in Port Sudan. I know what you've endured as women and girls is beyond anything that I could possibly understand. It's beyond anything that I can explain to the world. We will take your stories and we will make sure the world hears you. So this is to us, by the way. This is a speech, but it's sent to us. We will support those NGOs and community groups who lead the response. Yes. Yes, we will. And between that meal and that hungry child this evening that Midge has just talked about, you are interposed. Look, you and I, and him and me, we can do nothing about the horror in Ukraine. We can do nothing about the horror in Palestine. We can do nothing about the fear of what Trump's going to do. We can do nothing about the cost of living for all of us this Christmas, or inflation, or whatever. But with this little pop song, we do have agency. We can move the world a fraction for some individual. We can look at them and say, there's another human being, I don't like this, and I'm going to interpose between that meal and that kid, and that record is the interposition. And I promise you, get this track. Just go and get it physically if you can find a record shop, download it, or keep streaming, Look,
it's available to stream.
That person will get fed tonight and be protected and warmer and safer and start a life again of dignity.
That's amazing. Well, look, I'm just checking the date. From tomorrow.
Do they know it's Christmas? It's the 2024 Ultimate Mix now. It will be available to buy on Friday, with all funds going directly to the Band-Aid Trust.
And you can watch the making of Do They Know It's Christmas on Friday at 9 p.m.
BBC 4.
On BBC 4. Sir Bob, thank you so much.
Thanks,
Midge, thank you so much. For everything you've done as well, not just for coming on this show, for everything you've done. You've helped change the world, and that's an amazing thing to have.
He hasn't, obviously.
Yeah, but his daughter's a really good TV producer.
She's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, his daughter's a really good TV producer.
Bigs you guys up professionally with your research notes. Britain, what is wrong with television?
Oh, my goodness. Right, thank you very much, gents. Thank you so much.
Thank you for visiting our This Morning YouTube channel. We upload new content every day, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. And we'll see you in the morning.